Greetings, humanity! Today is Friday, March 20th, 2026. Let's grok the news. I'm Robert Gardner, using Grok, the most truthful AI in the world, each weekday to help me search out and to summarize for you the biggest headlines in the news today. You also get the unparalleled benefit of this observer's opinions. We briefly review a roundup of the most critical reports in the world, but first, and mostly in this special report, another deep dive into our top story, the conflict in Iran. Right after this. God with Us, the story of Jesus, is a full blending of all the Gospels into one continuous narrative, a story that misses nothing from the Savior's life. Inspired by the majestic text of the King James Bible, God with Us is adapted to modern language and formatted for easy reading. It's a faithful paraphrase, divided into brief stories fit for daily Bible study. The story of Jesus was fully researched to present the entire story, from his birth to his ascension, and in the best order we know. Find God with Us by me, Robert Gardner, at Amazon.com or wherever books are sold. And now, let's grok the most important news in the world today, starting with our lead story, Dateline Washington, Tehran, Jerusalem. The U.S.-Israel military campaign against Iran has entered its fourth week now, with intensified airstrikes on Tehran and key Iranian infrastructure, including energy facilities, as Iranian forces respond with missile and drone barrages targeting Israel and the Gulf states. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth has rejected forever war criticisms, stating the U.S. is winning decisively and on our terms, while President Trump compared aspects of the operation to the Pearl Harbor surprise attack during a meeting with Japan's Prime Minister when she asked why didn't America announce the attack on Iran ahead of time. Well, then it's not a secret attack, is it? Strikes have damaged at least 130 Iranian sites, with reports of the IRGC spokesman also joining the slain. Iran, meanwhile, has targeted Gulf energy infrastructure, including refineries in Kuwait and gas facilities linked to Qatar, triggering sharp surges in oil and gas prices worldwide, raising fears of broader supply disruptions. Humanitarian concerns are mounting as Iranians mark the Persian New Year under the shadow of conflict, with some reports of civilian impacts and displacement. The operation, involving coordinated U.S. and Israeli actions, has strained global energy markets and prompted international reactions. European nations and Japan have signaled a reluctant willingness to assist the United States in securing the Strait of Hormuz, but only after a ceasefire. Analysts note that the conflict's ripple effects on fertilizer supplies, Asian energy conservation efforts, and even distant economies considering remote work or fuel-saving measures. No immediate end is in sight. Pentagon officials reportedly are seeking another $200 billion from Congress. Tulsi Gabbard, Director of National Intelligence, has faced questions over intelligence assessments regarding immediate threats from Iran. The fighting occurs against a backdrop of Iran's Nowruz festival, traditionally a time of renewal, now, of course, overshadowed by war. This escalation marks a major shift in Middle East dynamics, with implications for global oil flows, regional alliances, and humanitarian conditions. The world watches as energy prices climb and diplomats scramble for de-escalation before the evil Iranian regime is gone. That is the pattern, you know. The West has the murderous Islamo-terrorists against the wall, and the diplomats run in to save them at the last second. Seriously, the unconditional surrender of the regime, with Trump holding a veto over their transitional leadership choice, are the terms that we have laid out, and really no others will serve. Now we grok the headlines from around the world. Dateline Washington. A federal arts commission handpicked by President Trump unanimously approved the final design for a 24-karat gold commemorative coin featuring his image to mark the 250th anniversary of America this year. The U.S. Commission of Fine Arts cleared the way for the mint to begin production despite earlier criticism and questions over the appropriateness. The usual critics called the move inappropriate. Supporters hailed it as a fitting tribute. Frankly, this observer would not object to Trump's face on Rushmore. It should be remembered this is a commemorative coin. This is not meant to be currency. Dateline Washington. Texas Democrat Senate candidate Colton Tallarico called illegal alien students the most patriotic, I suppose, for their own nations that they still carry flags for. Well, he said that he would oppose Senator Markwayne Mullin for Department of Homeland Security Secretary. Separate votes saw Democrats even opposing the deportation of migrants who harm animals. There is no cruelty they won't support to get a vote, I suppose. A new analysis found nearly half of immigrant households in the United States receive welfare. Well, that's half too many, obviously. Dateline Washington. Former FBI Director James Comey has been subpoenaed in a DOJ grand conspiracy probe, examining Trump-era investigations and prosecutions, hopefully the Biden-era investigations and prosecutions as well. The wide-ranging inquiry, led by a Trump-appointed prosecutor in Florida, focuses on officials involved in the 2016 Russia election interference assessment. How long before there are indictments, convictions, and imprisonments of these individuals? Dateline Washington and Beijing. Major U.S. tech firms are demanding new security restrictions on Chinese-made robots, citing espionage and supply chain risks amid heightened AI and technology rivalry between the two powers. Well, you see, folks, this is why we need Grok and trustworthy systems that can watch the AI systems that cannot be trusted. Dateline Washington. TSA workers face severe strain from an ongoing DHS shutdown, with many taking second jobs, many working longer hours to cope with staffing shortages and increased demands at the airports. Well, you can thank your congressional representation for that. This observer thinks that much of what the TSA is tasked to do anyway is unnecessary work, aimed at the wrong people. You can thank your congressional representative for that, too. Dateline Washington. Independent Senator Angus King has proposed making the doxing of federal agents a serious federal offense and ending masking as part of any DHS funding deal. This observer thinks that the masks do protect not only the identities but potentially the health and even the lives of the agents. The domestic enemy spits and flings all sorts of materials at them. It's a nasty business. Dateline Washington. The Senate Homeland Security Committee narrowly advanced Oklahoma Senator Markwayne Mullin's nomination to become DHS Secretary, sending it to the full Senate, despite opposition from some Republicans, including Chairman Rand Paul. This observer notes that it is expected that Mullin's nomination will be confirmed. Dateline Singapore and Washington. The U.S. deported a Singaporean vlogger previously convicted of child sex offenses returning him to face consequences in his home country. Consequences in Singapore can be much tougher than here in the relatively soft on-crime justice system in America. Dateline Washington, Beijing. 3 men were charged in the U.S. with conspiring to smuggle NVIDIA AI chips and related technology from the United States to China in violation of export controls. Always remember, folks, our economic and military rivals are not always so very honorable. Dateline Washington. A 19-year-old Mexican immigrant, Royer Perez Jimenez, was charged with felony fraud for impersonating an officer, and he died of presumed suicide in ICE custody this week, becoming the 44th detainee to die, prompting the usual calls for review of detention conditions and medical care protocols. Dateline California. Civil rights icon Cesar Chavez still in the news for facing sexual abuse allegations from decades ago. California leaders and Dolores Huerta have reacted, with some expressing shock and some calling for further examination of his legacy following this New York Times bombshell report. Dateline, the Western United States. An unprecedented and dangerous heat wave is gripping the U.S. West, setting temperature records as spring springs in California and raising health concerns as officials urge residents to take precautions. Dateline Queensland, Australia. Severe flooding is expected as tropical cyclone Narelle approaches the Queensland coast, prompting evacuations and emergency preparations. And Dateline Kenya. In drought-stricken regions of the African nation, desperate residents are turning to the nutritious, somewhat poisonous, unconventional gingerbread tree for food as traditional crops fail. Organizations such as the Kenya Red Cross, World Vision Kenya, and the UN's World Food Program are providing some assistance, while the Kenyan government plans to, pretty soon, start handing out food and feed in the starving, drought-stricken regions. Well, I thank you for listening. Please join me Monday to, once again, Grok the News. I'm Robert Gardner. Godspeed and God bless.